Welcome once again to Lehto's Law. Here's Steve Lehto.
One of those stories sent to me by almost everybody on the face of the planet. That might be a little bit over the top, just a little. But from abcnews.com, a $1.4 million speeding ticket surprised a Georgia man before officials clarified the issue. It was not actually a speeding ticket for which you'll have to pay $1.4 million. Mistakes were made, but they're blaming the mistakes on a computer. And, you know, computers are machines built by man. I know that surprises some of you. But anytime I mention computers, people go, "Oh, Steve, you don't know what you're talking about." I think computers were built by man. I don't think they fell from space fully assembled. But a Georgia man was left reeling after receiving a $1.4 million speeding ticket. But city officials say the figure was just a placeholder and not the actual fine. Now, that might be true, but it shows he's an idiot programming a computer someplace in Georgia. This is by the Associated Press. A Georgia man left reeling after receiving a $1.4 million speeding ticket now feels a little better because the officials say the figure is just a placeholder. And you may have heard that other countries often fine you not based on some fixed schedule of fees, but actually on your income. So they might say whatever money you make in a day or a week, you have to pay for a fine. And I've heard of fines that, you know, up into the millions of kroner, for instance, usually euros. And they do that in other countries, but not here. So the man tells WSAV-TV in Savannah that he received a citation after getting pulled over in September and being accused of driving 90 miles per hour in a 55. 90 and a 55. So they say, dude, you're doing 35 over. Here's a ticket. So he gets the ticket, and I assume he means the thing he got in the mail. And he said that he called the court wondering about the $1.4 million fine, and he was told that he either had to pay it or appear in court in December. So that's what he says he was told. Now, Savannah officials say anyone caught driving more than 35 above the speed limit, which is actually what he was allegedly doing, although they wrote him for 35. He may have been driving faster than that, according to the allegations. But they say that you must appear in court, so you cannot pay it and waive it, the court appearance. So you have to appear. And then a judge will determine the actual fine. So it gets you back to then what is the $1.4 million doing there? So that figure that the man got on the ticket was automatically generated by software used by the local court, according to a spokesperson for Savannah's city government. And that is a placeholder. A placeholder. The actual fine cannot exceed $1,000 in addition to state-mandated costs. So they're saying that when you get a ticket for more than 35 over, they have a space that says, here's what your fine will be. And they need to put something there. So they put in $1.4 million. Now, that would be a really stupid placeholder when you could simply put in the words, not available at this time, or must see court or something. You can put in other words. Does it have to be numbers? If it has to be numbers, you could put in some kind of symbols, I think. But again, if you're writing the software, you can probably put in anything you want. But again, I'm not a computer programmer. We do not issue that placeholder as a threat to scare anybody into court, even if this person heard differently from somebody in our organization, the spokesperson said. So the spokesperson is apparently pushing back on the notion that big number is put there to scare people. He added that the court is currently working on adjusting the placeholder language to avoid any confusion. So it's a placeholder. It could just say, you know, see clerk or must appear in court or something. That's a real simple fix. The fact that it picks $1.4 million out of thin air seems very strange to me. And it gets you back to how people actually do program computers. I'm not saying the way in which they do it. I'm simply the fact that they do it at all, right? So you've heard the saying, garbage in, garbage out. And so somebody somewhere did something that causes this system to write tickets for people over 35 over in such a way that it says, and your fine will be $1.4 million. Why not 1.3? Why not 1.9? Where did the 1.4 come from? Somebody did something. Now, I've spoken about topics parallel to this, and somebody will come back and go, Steve, there's an actual very good reason why it does such and such. It's taking a number from over here and using a dollar sign from over here, and it doesn't know that it's putting up a number with a dollar sign in front of it. I don't know. But my point is, people program this machine. They can deprogram it or reprogram it just as quickly. So that shouldn't be a problem. But there was all kinds of headlines, especially over the weekend, about the man who got the $1.4 million speeding ticket in Georgia, as if that's now a thing, and it's not. And one of the ways we know it could not be a thing is, of course, the Constitution's Bill of Rights. The Bill of Rights. And many people know the First Amendment quite well. Religion, press, speech, that kind of thing. The Second Amendment, they know that one too. And the Fourth, wait, there's a third too, right? But the Fourth, everyone knows the Fourth. And the Fifth, I'm going to take the Fifth, right? The Eighth Amendment. The Eighth Amendment is what gets invoked here. And that addresses excessive bail, excessive fines, and cruel and unusual punishment. We'll go backwards for a fun reason here. Cruel and unusual punishment. And one of the fun things to talk to people about is conjunctions and disjunctive phrases, which is the opposite. This and this is conjunctive. Conjunction, junction, what's your function? This or this is disjunctive. So when you say cruel and unusual punishment is forbidden, cruel or unusual is not necessarily. And so you might say, but what's a cruel punishment? Oh, I don't know, capital punishment? That's cruel. It don't get much more cruel than that. Unusual punishment? Believe it or not, unusual punishment would be okay as long as it's not cruel. So if I want to have, if I'm a judge and I say, look, you can spend 30 days in jail, or go stand on the street corner holding up a sign that says, I'm a bad driver, I can offer that to you. Now, I could probably force you to do it too, but I've heard of people being offered that before. And I've had people say, Steve, doesn't that violate the Eighth Amendment? No, because it's not cruel. It's unusual, but it's not cruel. And so cruel and unusual is forbidden. And then excessive bail, and then excessive fines. And the excessive fines came up in the Timms case, you'll recall, that went all the way to the U.S. Supreme Court and bounced around the court system for years because there was a criminal case underlying that. And when they took the man's vehicle from him, they said, well, we're going to take that as part of this case. And that would make it a fine as opposed to just a simple forfeiture. So they can fine you, but they cannot fine you an excessive amount. And of course, that's a case where the courts have never come out and said how to determine that other than with a bunch of factors involving words that are subjective. And so what would be an excessive fine for a speeding ticket? Some might say $1,000 is excessive. And that's what the guy's probably going to get because that's the max they can give you in Georgia, and the guy's doing 35 over. But $1,000 fine plus fees and costs, his day in court is going to get quite expensive. The real question, though, is, was that written as a misdemeanor or a civil infraction? Because in a lot of states, the lower level garden variety traffic tickets are civil infractions, meaning that they can fine you, you pay it, you walk out of court. You might get points on your license, but you ain't going to jail. A misdemeanor, however, means that besides the points and the fines, you could go to jail. And so I can tell you in many states, reckless driving and drag racing and speeds above a certain amount can be written as misdemeanors. And I'm curious to know if the 35 over and the super speeder thing here, whether that's going to qualify as a misdemeanor versus a civil infraction. There are also occasions in some states where it can be written either way and they overlap, meaning it's the officer's discretion. So an officer can walk up and say, well, even though you're doing this many miles over, I'm going to write it as simply miles over versus whatever we call the thing where you're doing too many miles over. So that's one of the reasons why they might say a court appearance is required. Because let's say that it's $1,000 max fine, plus court costs, fines, fees, not fines, but all that stuff, plus $1,000 fine, right? So if you know that, why can't you mail in a check? And there's a very good reason that you can't mail in the check, because they might say to you, by the way, you're going to jail. Now, you might not go to jail that day, but they might say you're going to spend 3 days in jail, report to jail Friday at 5 o'clock, that kind of thing. So that's what I'm more curious about. And so this guy is in the news because of this, and that's great. He's going to get 3 minutes of fame out of this. The real question is when he goes to court, is he facing any jail time, and what the odds are of that actually happening? So there you go. A lot of people sent that from a lot of different organizations. Version I've got here is from the abcnews.com. A $1.4 million speeding ticket surprised a Georgia man before officials clarified the situation. Questions or comments? Put them below. Let's talk to you later. Bye-bye.
Thank you for watching Lehto's Law. Show me a person who does not make mistakes, and I will show you a person who does not do anything.